In this episode, we will take a three-step approach to improving this photograph. We'll start off here, then we'll improve the image so that it looks like this, and we'll take one final step in order to improve the overall look in the photograph. And in order to do that, we'll be in Lightroom Classic, and we'll explore how we can work with presets. Let's begin. This week, we're talking about presets, post-production, and style. Hi, my name is Chris Orwig, and in this week's episode, we're going to highlight how we can use Lightroom Classic or Lightroom in order to improve our photographs. We'll be working with this image here, and I want to start off by highlighting a preset that I've created. You can find presets online, you can buy them, you can make your own. And here you can see I have a whole set of them, and there's some that I really enjoy using. These are these California Gold presets that give you different looks. And in this case, California Gold version 1 works really well when you have an image which is underexposed like this. I'll often do this so I can capture good detail in the sky. And you can see that simply by clicking on it, it gives you a pretty good look in your image. Now, I'll also show you how you can create this without the preset. But I wanted to highlight this as a workflow just to get you thinking about that time when you might want to reach for something to have a really quick edit. Now, with most presets, you'll want to customize them a little bit so that you can change and craft the overall look in the image. Like in this case, the face still seems a little bit too dark. So there, click on the adjustment icon for a radial filter. Here I will increase my shadows, maybe a little bit of exposure, and just drag one over the image to start to see if this is a good adjustment. And it looks like this might be a decent adjustment. Increase that feather value to soften those edges, and then looks like the size on that was just too big. And then also the values there are too strong. So kind of finding just the right spot for that. So adding a little bit of a spotlight there onto the face can really help out in this situation. All right, well, there's kind of a one-click edit and sort of a cool vibe. Actually, I think that's still too strong. So let me click on that. Here's another trick. If you click on the triangle icon for any of these adjustments that we have here, it will change this into an amount slider, and then you can decrease the amount. And here you can see how I can bring that way back. So you just want to make sure you're on that adjustment, and then you can drag that around until you can find just the right value there for how you want that to appear. And I'm going to look to have something a little more subtle like that. All right, so there you have it, just a subtle brightening of the face. Okay, now let's start from scratch. Let's go back to an image without any processing. And let's close our presets panel, and let's just work over here on our panels in the right. How the heck do we create a look like that? Well, when you have an image that's underexposed, you often are going to reach for shadows. That will help to boost those shadows, that area there of the image, which really is our subject. So we want to boost those. When you increase shadows, you often lose a little bit of an edge or snap. So I'm going to also typically bring up contrast. And here I want to bring up my exposure there as well so that I have nice detail in, or just kind of an overall brighter look, I should say, but maintaining nice detail somewhat throughout the sky. Now, before I get too carried away, I like to jump down to the lens corrections panel and remove chromatic aberrations in case you have any, and enable profile correction. So that removes our distortion around the edges and gives us kind of a nice even look to the photograph. So we have that, and the reason why I wanted to do that, because did you notice how it changed the overall brightness and the look of the image? So as I make these adjustments, negative clarity, just a touch to soften it up, maybe a little bit of vibrance, and then temperature, maybe warm that up there a little bit like that. Now, when we have an image like this, I'm going to say this is sort of normal processing, like we don't have a unique color palette just yet. What I'll do at this point is I'll create another virtual copy. And the way that you can create a virtual copy is you can go down to the tool strip down below, right click, and then choose create virtual copy. Or you can press Command apostrophe on a Mac or Control apostrophe on Windows. And now I have a virtual copy so that if I make a change here, let me just exaggerate. I have one that's black and white. I can always go back to the one which is a pretty decent image, a good starting point, so to speak. So in this case, I do not want it to be desaturated, but I do want to start to have fun with color. One of the places where I'll go to make color adjustments is in the tone curve. So here in the tone curve, I'm going to brighten that up a little bit and even bring up my shadows here a touch. So I'm going down to that point down there, That will help to sort of create a little bit more of a, I don't know, kind of a film type of a look. Then I'll go into my red channel. And in the red channel, if we drag down in the darker tones and then bring our brighter tones up, we can start to stylize that color there a little bit. You can see how I'm just sort of changing the color palette and looking to have a little more of that cyan in the image in the darker tones. Go into that green as well, experimenting here a little bit with these colors and looking at how it might be fun. Maybe just add overall a little bit of a green shift to the image. And then we'll go into our blue channel, drag away, it becomes yellow, drag up, it becomes blue. So again, just looking to find that right mix of all of these here to have a nice look. And I think something like that is kind of cool. So in this case, I'm just having fun with the color look. Can you see how we're kind of making it snap a little bit brighter, a little more yellow in it. And next we need to get even more fine-tuned with this. So we'll go to our HSL controls. Now in HSL, you have two different ways to operate. You can either click through the tabs and move sliders. So we could say, well, let's change the blues and let's make them more purple. Let's make them more aqua. Or you can grab the targeted adjustment tool, click on something and then drag that. And you can see how we can drag that over a little bit. And you can do that in each specific area. So in this case, I'm desaturating those colors there as well. And in the saturation, I might as well brighten up my reds and oranges and yellows. Luminance, I'm going to do that as well, just brightening up those areas there too. So it's kind of fun just to be able to play around and create different color looks. And with any of this, if you feel like you've gone too far, the great thing is you just go back to that slider and sort of play around, tinker around a little bit till you find the right mix. Now these get into really specific colors. So saturation for the reds, for example, you can see the pants there. You can see how I can change that look, the pants, also some of the skin tones, right? So you can really get to specific areas of your photograph. You can also go back to basic though and make general global adjustments. So if you want this whole thing to be a little bit cooler or a little bit warmer, you can change that there as well. Now I think kind of where we had it was probably good, but just want to highlight that that's something you can do. Another way that you can have fun with color is split toning. In split toning, we can say, well, let's introduce a color into the shadows. So we're introducing red into the shadows. We could also introduce a cooler tone, but in this case, I'm kind of liking that red look right there. And then highlights, what I'm going to do, the brighter tones, maybe a little bit more of that blue color there in the highlights. All right, so we have a pretty cool look here with the image. Go back to the basic panel, experiment with our overall color saturation and our vibrance until we like what we have. And then at this point, if you come up with a unique look, like here's the before, the state that we said was sort of normal, then here's the after, you can see that we have this kind of a fun overall look. If we look at the overall before and after, it goes from this to that. So that's kind of a fun process. And if you think you might want to use a look like this again, what you can do is save this out as preset. So go into my presets here, and I'll click plus icon, create a new preset, and I'm just going to say CO-vintage. And what I want to do is I want to check everything that I did here. So in this case, I did white balance, basic tone, tone curves, texture, clarity, dehaze. Just in case I did any of that, I didn't do much, but I'll leave that checked. So if I'm being really specific, I could turn those off, but leaving those on, it will zero them out. So I'm going to leave those on. And let's see, color, did some work with the color, nothing with graduated filters or noise reduction, lens corrections, transforms, effects, nothing there. Process version, I did do that one. And then sharpening, might as well add that to the mix as well. And then click create. And then in this way, what we're able to do with that is we can then have this preset, which we could apply to an image simply by clicking on it from the pull down menu, and it will apply all of those settings. Now with presets, the thing to keep in mind is they're often starting points. So if you were to apply this preset and you say, hey, that's kind of cool, the next step might be like we did before to say, well, yeah, but I also want to brighten the face here a little bit. And let me just find just the right value for that so that's not kind of so lost. And maybe I want to brighten the whole subject there for that matter, add a little more light onto the subject in this way. That could be kind of cool, right? Let me just get it right there, and then maybe even a little more yellow on that. I think that's actually kind of awesome to see that before and after. So that's something I wouldn't necessarily have in the preset, because where the subject's going to be sitting is going to be different in every situation. But you start off with that preset, you can then build on it from there. And that's the fun of working with working with Lightroom in this way, and really drilling deep into all of these different controls, because you can create these custom looks. Then you can have a look that you know will work for those situations. And remember this image, it was underexposed, so we had good detail in the sky. And then when we applied that, we also brought out everything and brought out even more of those shadows using our final adjustment. So now that I've seen that, I think I need to rename this one. So I'm going to say CO Vintage dash underexposed. And that's the indicator to remind me, hey, if I want a vintage look and I want to apply this to an image, it's one that's going to be underexposed. I can one-click that and then maybe do something else and be done. All right. Well, that was a lot of information. If you didn't catch everything, watch this video again. But most importantly, I hope you picked up a few tips and tricks, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you in another tutorial. Bye for now.